I'm going to go over the agenda, the speakers that you'll be hearing in a moment. Sorry about that. First, we're going to hear a short update of what happened inside from a member of Mahmoud's legal team. Then we'll hear statements from Mahmoud's support team, as well as the Southeast Dignity Not Detention Coalition and Palestinian Youth Movement New Orleans. We'll also hear from several faith leaders on why they're here today. Please save your legal questions for the virtual press conference later this afternoon. So first, a message from Mahmoud.
Hi all, my name is Sabreen Mohammed and I will now read a statement on behalf of Mahmoud Khalil's support team. Today, an immigration judge ruled that Mahmoud can be removed from this country, a decision as unjust as it is alarming. Despite the government's failure to prove that Mahmoud broke any law, the court has decided that lawful permanent residents can have their status revoked for pro-Palestine advocacy. This is a blatant violation of the First Amendment and a dangerous precedent for anyone who believes in free speech and political expression. But this decision should not pacify you, it should embolden and encourage you. Those who know Mahmoud know him for his fierce commitment to justice and his refusal to back down from even the steepest of challenges. It is Mahmoud's fighting spirit that we must embrace in the following days. While his deportation would devastate his wife and their soon-to-be-born child, it would also intimidate all who dare to speak for Palestinian liberation. In recent weeks, this repression has only intensified, with the visas of students presumed to be pro-Palestine being revoked daily. We must not give in to this chilling effect for Mahmoud, for Rumeysa, for Badr Khan Suri, and for hundreds of others. Mahmoud is currently imprisoned in Louisiana, a state that detains over 7,000 people daily and serves as the second largest hub for immigration detention in the U.S. Louisiana's 9 detention centers, 8 of which are privately operated, include the only ICE facility in the country directly connected to an airport, thus streamlining mass deportations. Across the state, abuse runs rampant. Detainees face solitary confinement, rotting food, medical neglect, and sexual assault. This system is fueled by corporate greed. GEO Group, the private prison company caging Mahmoud, earned over $1 billion from ICE contracts in 2022, while paying detainees less than $1 a day. Profits bolstered by retirement and 401k investments made by everyday people, often unknowingly. At the end of today's hearing, Mahmoud stated the following: I would like to quote what you said last time, that there's nothing that's more important to this court than due process rights and fundamental fairness. Clearly, what we witnessed today, neither of these principles were present today or in this whole process. This is exactly why the Trump administration has sent me to this court 1,000 miles away from my family. I just hope that the urgency that you deemed fit for me is afforded to the hundreds of others who have been here without hearing for months. This is the site of Mahmoud's imprisonment behind us, and yet even from within its walls, he sends you his gratitude for showing up today, for refusing to look away. Your presence here is a declaration. We will not accept the criminalization of dissent against genocide. Free Mahmoud, free all of Gina's prisoners, and free Palestine.
We'll now hear from 2 members of the Southeast Dignity Not Detention Coalition with a message for us.
Hi, good afternoon. We're here today to deliver a statement from the Southeast Dignity Not Detention Coalition, a Gulf South alliance of immigrants, children of immigrants, organizers, legal workers, and advocates committed to ending immigrant detention. We are deeply disappointed and angry about the result of today's hearing and utter denial of Mahmoud's due process rights and humanity. We want to say that regardless of their decisions, we will continue fighting for Mahmoud and for all the people detained by the immigrant detention system. Today and every day, we call for the abolition of this country's inhumane detention system, starting with the 11 centers in our region, the majority of which are run by for-profit prison corporations. We denounce the conversion of Louisiana prisons, like the one behind us, into ICE jails, continuing a legacy of racialized control and dehumanization in this state. We know that these southern prisons, built specifically for the enslavement and torture of black people, were valiantly shut down by organizers in black liberation struggle in order to end mass incarceration, not to become a cage for other bodies. Our people deserve better than to have their futures at the whims of private prison corporations uncaring of our communities.
We stand in solidarity with Mahmoud Khalil, Ramesa Ozturk, Badr Khan Suri, Ali Reza Daroudi, and all others trapped in the system. They are political prisoners, among many others, fighting a struggle to be free while isolated far from legal support, family, and community. Our struggles are deeply interconnected. The tools of border militarization used against immigrants here were first tested on Palestinians abroad. And long before the ICE detention industry came to us, the first detention center in Louisiana popped up an hour and a half away from here in Oakdale, Louisiana, out of a plan to detain Arab and Muslim non-citizens in secret, a plan that was exposed during the LA 8 trials of Palestinian student protesters in 1987. And even though this plan was not enacted, its racist and Islamophobic scheme for isolation and denial of due process is deeply embedded into every part of the modern detention system. We come here today to say whether someone is asylum seeking, a green card holder, a student, undocumented, black, indigenous, Palestinian, Latino, we are united in our struggles. An attack on one of us is an attack on all of us.
We refuse to be silent. We will not stop until every detention center is shut down and every person is free. Free Mahmoud Khalil, free Palestine, and free them all.
We'll now hear a statement from the New Orleans chapter of the Palestinian Youth Movement.
My name is Hakam from the Palestinian Youth Movement of New Orleans. I'll remind us today that Mahmoud Khalil is not just a name on a case. He's a loving husband, a soon-to-be father, and now a political prisoner in front of a kangaroo court. Let's be absolutely clear about what's happening. Mahmoud was abducted by the United States government for daring to speak out against a genocide that this very government has been actively funding and facilitating. The courtroom we just left tells a damning story. The federal government has failed to present even a shred of evidence against Mahmoud, yet they still plan to deport him. Why? Because he exercised his First Amendment rights, the very freedoms this country claims to hold sacred. Maybe they are for some, but not all. Make no mistake, Mahmoud's case transcends one man's struggle. This case lays bare the hypocrisy at the heart of our system. The United States professes to champion due process, freedom of speech, and the presumption of innocence, while simultaneously denying those very rights to an entire segment of our population. At the whims of a Secretary of State who writes a 2-page letter that is both undated and unsubstantiated. What was their crime? Vocal opposition to genocide? Their offense? Actively working to stop the slaughter of people in Gaza and across Palestine? The targeting of Mahmoud Khalil, Ramesa Ozturk, Ali Reza Daroudi, and the others abducted by the state is not a national security issue. It's about instilling fear. It's about scaring the American public into submission so they won't speak out against the U.S.-funded occupation of Palestine and this regime's ongoing genocide in Gaza. But we are here today to deliver a message. These tactics will fail. Our movement remains strong, and it grows stronger with each act of repression. We will continue to speak up, to organize, and take the streets until our demands are met. We will not allow fear to control us. Because remaining true to our principles is what Mahmoud and the other political prisoners have shown us matters the most. I remind you, after hearing the verdict from a kangaroo court that was predetermined before the case even began, Mahmoud left us with a message. He said, please show the urgency that you had for this case, for the hundreds of prisoners detained and locked up behind us. He had the empathy to care about others in a moment that should have been about him, about injustice that happened to him. These are the people that this government decides that should be deported. The Trump administration, we say, the people are not afraid. We refuse to be silent in the face of your attacks on working people and the movement for Palestine. As the past months of speeches and actions from Mahmoud and Palestine have proven, our movement is only growing stronger and more broad in the face of these immoral attacks. The people, united, will never be defeated because our cause is just, moral, and the truth. Free Mahmoud, free Palestine.
Have you say your name again and then spell it if possible?
Hakam, H-A-K-M, from the Palestinian Youth Movement. Thank you.
We're now going to hear from several faith leaders in our Louisiana communities speaking about why they decided they needed to be here today as well.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The people of the world stand here today in solidarity, not just for our brother Mahmoud Khalil, but for all those who unjustly detained, silenced, and separated from their families. We raise our hands in dua, beseeching Allah, the most just, to grant freedom to the oppressed and strength to those who endure trials and patience. Ya Allah, liberate Mahmoud and all political prisoners from the chains of injustice. Restore them to their loved ones and grant them dignity in this life and the after. We will not cower in fear before systems that perpetuate oppression, just like our brother said. We answer to a higher power, Allah, Al-Malik, the King of Kings. Even pharaohs fell when they defied justice, and tyrants throughout history have crumbled before truth. Let us not forget that abducting people, isolating them from their families, and silencing their voices is the hallmark of oppression. This is how Palestinians are treated in their homeland by Israel, stripped of freedom even on their own soil. So we ask, where can a Palestinian truly be free? Prosecuting Mahmoud means the United States is complicit in Israel's ethnic cleansing of Palestine, displacing Palestinians from their homeland only to silence them again when they speak up here. What hypocrisy! You call to remove Gazans to better lands, yet detain them when they speak their minds. Be honest. Deporting him as a safety risk is really about denying Palestinians' existence. This is the evil that you try to hide, or you don't even care to hide anymore. This is why we must stand for a free Palestine. Because the moment we stop, then our fight, our cause, and our homeland disappear. Just as they want, justice belongs to Allah alone. May He guide us and protect us as we strive for equity. Ameen.
Good afternoon. My name is Liv, and I'm here as a campus minister and as a proud native of Louisiana. I'm here to speak particularly to Christians, maybe especially my white Christian siblings. Jesus Christ, the very same Jesus we call Savior, the one we will celebrate on Easter in a few days, was first a man from Judea, the land now called Palestine. He was born to a family seeking refuge and fleeing a violent and authoritarian regime. Then, when the police were on his heels, out to kill him, someone who he thought was a friend sold his location to the cops for 30 pieces of silver. That next day, he'd be crucified, killed by empire, in an act of state-sanctioned murder. That ancient story is happening again, siblings. Look around, Christian siblings. It's unfolding now in Palestine, on Columbia's campus, on Tulane's. Here. Christians, who do you want to be in this story? Do you want to be the one who sells information about your immigrant neighbor for 30 pieces of silver? Do you want to be the ones who turn away in compliance when Christ is hanging on the cross? Do you want to be the Roman soldiers responsible for detaining him? Do you want to be the upholders of a rigged court? Who do you want to be in this story? Or, friends, do you want to be the people of the resurrection? The people of that great promise that God's love has come to free us from the sins of Islamophobia, of racism, of white nationalism. Don't you want to be the people of the resurrection? The people of liberation and peace? Hear this brief prayer from Emily Wilkes. God of liberation, hold Mahmoud Khalil, shield him, strengthen him. Let the cruelty of this place never reach his spirit. May it never sever the tether that binds him to his beloved, to his wife, to the child she carries, to the movement that carries him, to the land he loves and loves him back. Let the walls that hold him tremble under the weight of solidarity rising up to meet him. Let the chains that bind him shudder with the promise of a broken yoke. Let justice and love conspire to bring him home. God's power to Mahmoud, to his wife, to Palestine. Free Palestine. May it be so. My name is Liv, L-I-V, Thomas, Thomas.
I'm Reverend Sarah Green, Saraggreen, a Unitarian Universalist community minister. We have a hymn and a spiritual mandate that says, circle round for freedom, circle round for peace. For all of those imprisoned, circle for release. We have been circling around for months and years and decades. What we did here today was circle around. What we will continue to do for as long as it takes, we'll circle around for release. For the end of genocide, for the end of colonization, for a free Palestine, for the release of all political prisoners. We will not stop until every inch, I'm so serious, until every inch of our imagination of how free we could be is realized. We are prepared to be here for a very long time. And our movement is fueled with love, compassion, solidarity, and a fierce and unrelenting imagination of what liberation and what freedom will inevitably be. In Ecclesiastes, there's a quote that talks about there's a time for everything. There's a time for rage, there's a time for protest, there's a time for yelling, there's a time for rest, for celebration, for re-strategizing. But now, as we soak in the words of Mahmoud, it's a time to grieve. Not just for our beloved, but for all of them who are in there. So join me in what could never be long enough, a moment of silence and grief. Ashe.
We've just received a statement from Mahmoud Khalil's wife, Noor Abdallah, so we're going to hear that now.
Today's decision feels like a devastating blow to our family. No person should be deemed removable from their home for speaking out against the killing of Palestinian families, doctors, and journalists. Today in court, the government reiterated the same baseless racist claims about my husband that we have heard time and again in attempts to smear those calling for an end to Israel's brutal genocide in Gaza. My husband is a political prisoner who is being deprived of his rights because he believes Palestinians deserve equal dignity and freedom. There is nothing the government can say about my husband that can silence this truth. This ruling is an indictment of our country's immigration system and does not reflect truth, justice, or the will of the American people. In less than a month, Mahmoud and I will welcome our first child. Until we are reunited, I will not stop advocating for my husband's safe return home.
We'll conclude with a prayer from Reverend Barbara.
I offer this from my tradition, my personal tradition, and I invite you to lift your hearts and spirits and minds to openness to that which calls us to greater things. God of our hearts, of many names and many understandings beyond all of our naming, we gather always hopeful. We gather in expectation. We gather in support. This nation that we live in has such potential and such promise. Every time she steps away from the magnanimity that is that promise, our hearts ache. We have so many things that are unimaginable other places in this world. We are called to be the providers, the protectors, the defenders, the nurturers, the mature, visionary, benevolent guide for this world. And when we step away from that, we betray our promise. Guide us back. Hold our courage and compassion that we may grow into the light on the hill that we can be. Amen.
Thank you to everyone for being here. This concludes our press conference. We're not taking any questions at this time, but the legal team has tentatively planned a virtual press conference at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 p.m. Central. Thank you for being here. Free Palestine. I think we've put that in the press materials that we've sent out, but yeah. Thank you.